So we begin our third lesson today on Buddhist philosophy. We have so far completed two lessons, and today we are going to enter into a very interesting discussion on Buddhist philosophy. So I will share my PPT so that it will help us to navigate through our class. So lesson 3 is titled as Craving, Attachment, and the Root of Suffering. And the sub question is, why does satisfaction never last? And what we're going to do today is have a philosophical investigation into wanting, insecurity, and freedom. So broadly, our theme is craving, attachment, and the root of suffering. And we will, as usual, we will try to make it more interactive and more inquiry oriented. So the question that all of us face all the time is, why does satisfaction never last? Why it is that we are never satisfied, we are never content. And to begin with, if we look at the one of the gathas of Dhammapad, which was quoted by Baba Ambedkar, about Santushti Paramdhanam, the satisfaction or contentment is the highest wealth. And for taking from here, we will have a little bit discussion on why does satisfaction never last. I think this is a very interesting starting point for our class. So I'll invite some of your views on this as to why does satisfaction never last. So let's begin with this discussion for a while, then we will proceed on. So anybody has anything to say why the satisfaction never lasts? Or do you feel perpetual satisfied about something or certain things you have in possession or certain achievements? Anybody has anything to say on this?
Good morning, sir.
Sir,
Devi.
Because
yes. Yes, one by one. Yes.
our Trishna never ends. That's
Krishna never
why,
ends. Okay.
yeah, your cravings, that's also never ends.
Okay, good point. That's good. Our Krishna never ends. That's one answer. What about others? Sir?
Good morning, sir. Raja.
Raja, yes, Raja.
The end of the contentment is not properly understood, no?
Yes.
Again, we are starting from the ignorance, the
Okay.
state of ignorance.
Right.
Please go ahead.
So because you are saying that because we are in a state of ignorance that we are never satisfied, right?
Yes. We are not properly understanding about the end and the conclusion of the requirement, no?
Okay.
Whatever
So,
an individual required need or want,
right.
either material or knowledge or intellectual or
Mhm.
intelligent or whatever it may be, the requirements and want needful known.
So
The
we should
end
know requirements and needs, right? We don't know that.
needs of its end
Okay.
does
What is
not
the
know.
goal
No.
of it? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great, Rajaji. Anyone has anything to say on this? Anyway, we will go ahead and explore further, and then we again come back to our discussions. So this is what we started with. Why does satisfaction never last? So the next point of inquiry is, we will have a little bit of reflection again, because I think this is the way, this is the most interesting way to conduct the class. So is the screen visible to you all?
Yes.
Okay. So what was the last thing you desperately wanted? This is a reflection. We all want something very desperately. We want certain material things. Perhaps a new phone, perhaps if we are working somewhere, we want to have, one minute. We want to have what is called the, 1 minute. People are,
Promotions. We want promotions in job.
yes. 1 minute, 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Okay. Now, because some people are wanting to join in, so let me admit them. Okay, I think I should close the class, after some time because this is a distraction. Anyway, so okay, what were you saying?
Sir, we want jobs, promotions in jobs.
We want promotion in job desperately. Some people want promotion in jobs. Some people want, relationship. They think that they will be satisfying. That will be the end of all their problems. Some of us, we desperately want respect, recognition, a result, achievement, or success, right?
Yeah.
We can all reflect on what is the last thing that we desperately wanted. Something that we desperately wanted. We were so desperate to have it. So, there is, of course, a material object, a career growth, or even a job, a relationship, respect or recognition, or a result, achievement, or success.
And also we want children's success.
We want children's success.
Children should be successful in their life.
Right. So we want all these things, right? And the question is, did it satisfy you permanently? Like whatever we wanted to so desperately, say, for example, a new model of a mobile or a new relationship or a promotion or anything, recognition. The question is, did it satisfy us permanently? What was the nature of something we wanted? And after we had it, did it satisfy us permanently? I think that's a very important question. Right? So just imagine that, you think about something that you wanted desperately. You thought that you won't be able to do without it. You had it, and then, could it satisfy us permanently? What do you think? Anybody has anything to share on this?
Yes,
Nothing will satisfy permanently.
So Rajaji is saying that nothing will satisfy us permanently, right?
Permanently.
yes,
Yes.
sir. Hello.
Yes.
I just want to say that why we need satisfaction.
That's a very important question. Very good question.
Because when you satisfy, you not learn. When you not learn, you not evolve.
Very good point.
So unsatisfied things are good. We keep searching for new things. We evolve ourselves and we learn to live a better life. I think most important thing is to get enlightened around all the things around what is happening, what is life, and how to evolve better in our life, so that we can see what is benefit for us and what is not benefit for us, how to distract ourselves such things that is not benefit for us, and how to focus more that is benefit for us. I think that is a more important dimension in which we can evolve ourselves. And when we satisfy things, we stop searching new things. And when we stop searching new things, we not learn, we not evolve. That's why many of the times the Hindu's philosophy bring the question of bhakti, and bhakti actually destroy the society.
So very beautiful.
So it is very important to need to know why we want satisfaction.
Good.
We should learn more and more. We should aware around the things.
Right.
And that is more important for us, I think.
That's a very, very beautiful point, Rajesh Bhai. I was expecting that some of you would say that. That's a very good point. Do we have to be satisfied all the time? In which areas we need to be satisfied? In which areas we do not have to be satisfied? Right? If we say that we are satisfied with the current status of affair in our life, whether we when we are suffering or Buddhism is not about contentment per se, contentment on that level, as you pointed out very well, Rajesh ji. And we are going to look into that. This is a question that, ask us to understand what is important, what are the important things in our life, right? What is it that
Yes,
can give us the lasting satisfaction? As you say, inquiry, curiosity. That's a very good point, Rajesh. Anything further you want to add, Rajesh?
yes, I just want to add. Uh, Hello.
Yes, yes, yes. You're audible.
Uh, Actually, because I search a lot about Buddhism, I search lot about the teaching of Buddha, why he evolved to a level of Buddha. Is Siddhartha become a Buddha? I think the journey is very important to know, and the journey towards Buddha is what I feel is to develop the buddhi. Buddhi means
Yes.
the intellect that know the dimension of all the directions. What is good, how good is good, and what is bad, and the bad is how extreme bad is actually affecting us.
Good. No,
So,
that's very good point. Very good point, and we will be coming to that. Rajesh, these are very important discussion that you pointed out that the Buddha is all about buddhi. And Buddha, of course, etymologically derived from Bujjayo, Bujjati, so Buddha. Buddha. That's a very good point. So, but we know that, some of the things that we experience in our lives, some of the objects, our quest is misdirected. And the Buddha said that our quest should be directed towards something which is, as you said, important for the human flourishment, right? But most of
yes,
the times, our quest is diverted towards something which never, make us feel like having a fulfilled life, right? But there are certain things, as you pointed out, knowing, cultivating our personalities, developing, evolving ourselves in the right directions. They are, that's a never-ending process. There is no end to the Buddha. That is what it is said in Buddhism, right? So our question is a traditional question, that the kind of seeking that we all do in terms of objects in the world, and 1 minute, the kind of seeking that we do in the world, and
hello.
1 minute, let me add people. Okay. Yes. Yeah, Rajesh, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I just focus again for the satisfaction,
Yes.
because if suppose if we try to understand with the satisfaction, I am hungry and I have a food, I'm satisfied that point of time. When I am searching for a certain percentage and I achieve that percentage, I'm satisfied at that particular time.
Right.
And again the desire arise, yes, I have to go in the next class and I have to score again. That again create an unsatisfaction, and I again move to the next class, and when I try to achieve that percentage, I again satisfy. So satisfaction or unsatisfaction is a journey of life that
Yes, but
need
here,
to be continued.
Rajeshji, here we are talking about on a very different level. We are not talking about the noble quest. We are talking about the day-to-day things that we inquire in our lives. We are not talking about the kind of quest that you are referring here. We are talking about in a reference to, the previous classes as to how suffering arises and what is the nature of suffering. And, it is related to that, lesson 1 and 2. So as we go on, things will clear to you. So, to come back to what we are discussing is, we seek a lot of things, some material objects, some fame, some name. And at the end of the day, we achieve, we achieve it.
And I just want to add here, and
Yeah.
I want to continue you to forward, because this step is actually related to the suffering or suffering or because when we not able to achieve that,
Hmm.
it create a suffering.
Okay.
When we desire the things and it not achieve, it creates suffering.
Hmm.
And that why the core teaching comes that decrease the desire,
Okay.
control the desire.
Okay.
Because if you control the desire according to your capabilities,
Yes, yes.
suppose uh, I am a not a good height and I want to become a basketball player, then I have to make ourselves realize that I'm not made for the basketball player. So, but still I'm keeps doing for basketball become a basketball player, then
Okay, okay,
actually somehow
Rajeshji,
it creates suffering.
we will have these discussions, because I think let me go through this. We have a lot of things to cover, and then
Mhm.
we can come to this in the we have another 7 more classes to go. So you see what I'm telling you, what we are discussing here is, we started for the people who join now, that, we started with the question, why does satisfaction never last? We look at, various things that we desperately want, like a material object, like a new phone, promotion, relationship, respect or recognition, whatever. And then, up to we get it, did it satisfy us permanently? That was another question. And, the next question is, how long did the satisfaction really last? So, we can really think about ourselves. We were desiring something, we achieved it, and how long did it last? So we can almost think about it, did it last forever? Whatever we achieved, did it last forever? So I think these are the kind of questions that I wanted to begin our third lesson with, so that we get a kind of a hook into or anchor into what we are going to study today. So if getting what we want made us happy, why do we keep wanting? What is the nature of the mind that we keep on wanting all the time? What is inside us? What is, the nature of mind that we keep on wanting, you know, uh, wanting a lot? So, of course, that takes us to the second noble truth. And that second noble truth is very important in terms of understanding why do we want the way we want, is the nature of the second noble truth. So, it's from, we are actually going from the dukkha samudaya. And in the lesson one, we saw the dukkha, the fact of suffering, and we saw that the suffering arises not because of, because of something inherent in the object. The suffering arises because we do not see the way it is. We do not see as it is. We do not have the clear vision. We do not have, in other words, in Buddhist parlance, samadhi. And in the second chapter, we have gone much more into inquiry of the first problem, first question, the question arising from the first lesson. And the third, today we are going to look at the arising of suffering. Why do different forms of sufferings arise? So that is going to be the lesson number 3. So in a way, these all whatever we have been studying connects here. So this is where we are in the course, and craving is the key causal force. And we are going to look at the suffering, the craving as a cause, or what is called the taṇhā. And the path begins by seeing the mechanism clearly. So that is where we are going to launch inquiry into the fourth sort of a lesson. So this is what the Buddha said, and as we were approaching our classes, we are not going to accept just as it is whatever the Buddha has said, as the Buddha himself has urged us to test his teachings like the goldsmith tests the gold, whether it's real gold or the fake gold. So the Buddha said, and of course, the second noble truth is about craving is the origin of suffering. So this is the core teaching of the Buddha, and there is a lot of things about, as Rajesh ji was pointing out, that whether all sort of quests uh, leads to suffering, or whether there are certain kinds of, we won't call it taṇhā, we will call it certain kind of aspirations, sankalpas, or resolutions, or the mental sort of a growth which leads to, and the quest for that leads to suffering. So there is, of course, what we can say, the sort of craving, and the aspiration for the attainment of the enlightenment, or the aspiration to live a very fulfilled life, or an aspiration to have a very, very cultured life. So these two things are very different. That as in Buddhism it is said that the suffering is an optional. It's that we don't have to suffer the way we suffer if we understand the nature of the our own selves and the world. If we understand it as it is, then we can lessen or even eradicate our suffering. So as the Buddha said, craving is the origin of suffering. So taṇhā, as we know, and taṇhā arises because the mind seeks what cannot be held. And we have seen in the previous classes, as to how, because we try to hold on to something, thinking that it's permanent. And we have seen a very beautiful example in the second lesson about, the discussion between Milinda and Nagasena about, is there any sense in anything? And we found that there is no primal substance. There is no nothing that can be said which stands apart from everything, which is independent, which is not subjected to change. We cannot find it. And because everything changes, but our craving makes our mind seeks what cannot be held. And therefore we have seen that security, because of that we feel very insecure, because nothing feels secure in this very changing dynamic world. We try to hold on to something which we think will never change, but the nature of thing, or nature of the world, or nature of ourselves, as we have seen in the lesson 2, is like this, that it undergoes continuous change. So the craving, as we have seen, is
Just
the mind seeks what cannot be held. Yes.
because as you highlighted, change is a integral part and consistent part of the life,
Yes.
and is change somehow attached with the satisfy and unsatisfied things.
Okay.
Because what are the topic of discussion at present? We have why not we achieve the satisfaction permanently? Because the inherited teaching is that change is everlasting. Change is integral part of our life. Things will change, and that's why it is very important to adjust ourselves for the change. And when we adjust ourselves for the change, we prepare ourselves for the future. So that's why this satisfaction, when we achieve the satisfaction, we do not ready ourselves for the change. So that I feel somehow it is important that we should, like just a nature philosophy, just like a Darwin's law of nature. Nature also want the species to be changed. Those species who ready to change to the change in the environment survive, and those species or human do
Rajenji,
not ready.
Rajenji,
Yes, that is important.
there is a lot of opportunity to discuss, and we have designed the course like that there will be a lot of opportunity to discuss. So let me go on with what we are discussing. Don't break my flow at this moment, and I will offer you a lot of opportunities to reflect back on the topic. Okay, is that okay,
Okay,
Rajenji?
you continue. You continue.
Okay. So this is what we have been discussing. Okay. So we have been looking into this, and we have looked into the second chapter at length as to how what is the nature of the object that we permanently seek, particularly in terms of the self. And we said we saw that the self is not something, some kind of a metaphysical entity, something which can be shown apart from the conditions that arise and pass away. So I think this is very interesting for us to understand. And the question is, why cravings arise? Why it is the continuous arising of the craving all the time? What is, why do we seek after certain things? Because the world is impermanent, we try to seek permanence. And because the world is impermanent, we feel insecure. Because we feel insecure, we want to hold on to certain things so much. So this question is very important: why does craving arise? And I think, let's recall the lesson number 2 that we have studied. And we discussed in the lesson number 2 that no permanent self, there is no permanent self. The self, that is what the Buddha discovered under the Bodhi tree, that whatever we hold on to, I, me, myself, cannot be ultimately found. It's just, notion, and it is just, it is not some kind of entity. The self is not an entity, it's a process, it's an activity, it's an event. That's what we have seen. And the self is not a substance. The self is a process. Identity feels unstable. Like, we have seen for ourselves as to how many identities we undergo all the time. And an unstable self seeks security. So that's our basic as we say, existential dilemma that, the unstable self seeks security. So I think that's how we connect. And we know that everything changes, sand slipping through fingers. This is a kind of, visual I wanted to bring forth to you, that however hard we try to hold on to certain things, like for example, if we want to hold on to a sand for very tightly, or just we try to hold on the sand, it slips through our fingers. This is the image that, even if we this one image we keep in mind, we understand the sense of the lesson number two. And uh, we want permanence, but in the impermanent world, we want permanence, and that is the another issue. It's like trying to hold on to water, which we cannot. But that's what we all the time try to do: hold on to something, thinking that it's not going to change, it's going to remain as it is, and this is what gives rise to suffering. So this is the hidden formula we can keep in mind, that impermanence plus insecurity is equal to craving. I can go on talking about the second noble truth in terms of the Pali formula. The Pali formula goes on like this: Yayang tanna pono bhavika nandiraga sahagata tatra tatra bindini seyatidam kama tanna bhavatanna vibhavatanna. So there are three levels of craving that the Buddha particularly asked us to guard against. That is the craving for, craving to be, that we want to be, we want to live forever. That's one sort of a craving. That's called the bhavatanna. And another form of craving that we can see in the traditional Buddhist parlance is the vibhotanna, that I don't want that to be. To put it very simply, we can go down and explore these various levels of tanna very deeply. And then there is a third level of tanna called the kama tanna. Kama tanna means the craving for the sensory objects, like the objects of eye. We see something nice, we want it. We hear something from ears, and we want to seek that sound. So that realm of wanting, or tanna, is called the kama tanna. So I'm not going to go into traditional sort of the classification. Our aim here in this class is to really make us all think, inquire, because that is why we have termed this course as the Buddhist philosophy. Because as we have made it a point beginning with in the course, that we all need to put ourselves to inquire into our experiences, to inquire into our feelings, inquire into our minds. So let's I think before we go on, let's deliberate on this particular thing, that is this thing, that where do you seek permanence? I think this is a very important side, and this is where we will open our class for the reflection. Okay, so where do you seek permanence? So anybody has anything to say? And that ties up with what Rajesh has been saying. So any reflection on this, that where do we seek permanence? Do you understand this question, that we try to find something permanent that we think that will help us to have satisfying life, and we all seek permanence. We all seek permanence in certain things. We seek permanence in careers, in relationships, in identities, in status, in possessions, in reputation. That's what we all try to seek. Right or wrong?
Right.
Now you can add your points, because as we have seen, it's the nature of mind to seek permanence, and we know theoretically at least that the world is impermanent, right? But the areas, the domains where we try to seek permanence, they can be different for different people. But this is generally what I listed down as most of us try to seek permanence in career. We think that if we have a career, Once we are in a career, having a career, we think that, this is going to give us a lasting satisfaction. Or maybe a relationship, we think that if we get into a relationship, a very good relationship, whatever, we think that, we will not suffer. Right. So these are some of the domains that, I try to list it down here, where we try to seek permanence. Right. So any reflection on that from anybody? Rajesh.
Yes, hello.
Hello. Yes, Rajesh, go on.
Uh, where do we seek permanence? I think the permanence or the is in the life. These are the subset of life.
Okay.
Because career, relationship, identity, status, all reputations, these are subset of life.
Okay.
And when we achieve the permanence in our life, when we content in life, I think that is a time, or that is a position we achieve the purpose of our life, might be. Or I think ultimately Buddhism is focused on the purpose of life.
Okay.
If I find a lot of philosophy from Jainism to Buddhism to Hinduism, it is very difficult to define the term Hinduism, but Advaita Vedanta, that is a core foundation philosophy of Sanatan that we are hearing. So all these philosophy, out of all the three, or even if we include the Sikhism, the most purposeful destination is given by the Siddhartha, the Gautama. So, and the second important philosophy that is touching this permanence, that is a seek the permanence, is the Guru Nanak. So, the focus of Buddha somehow deal with the to achieve the enlightenment, to develop the intellect, to understand the life, and to create a purpose of life. Because if we create a purpose of life,
Yes. So yes, that's okay. I think the question is, this is a reflection on our own selves as to, where do we seek permanence? We all try to seek permanence. Like you pointed out to a very important thing, that we try to see that we try to seek immortality, right? As you said
yeah,
that, because if you, as you said, these are the subsets of life, and we all want not to die, right? None of us. And that is,
uh,
metaphorically, that is one of the sights that the Buddha encountered, in terms of the psychological, when he witnessed death, and he was shocked that this is going to happen to me. He witnessed a sickness, and he thought that, I'm going to fall sick. And so, you see, this is very interesting that you have pointed out, that we try to seek a permanent, eternal life. That's what, we think we live as if we are never going to die. Right? Is that what you want to say, Rajesh ji? Like,
yes,
you
because
focus on this list, okay?
yes. So, because the purpose of this is ever changing, because the change that focus, the Buddhists is focus on the change. There is permanent change, and definitely, if you are not satisfied with the relationship, if you are not
We are
satisfied
going
with
to
the
come out with a lot of ideas, because, Buddha doesn't, we are going to look at not, permanence also. We are going to look at the transformations, and we are going to look at Paticca Samutpada in the coming lectures. So, that is the reflection exercise is confined to this, that we all try to seek permanence. We try to seek permanence in career, in relationship, in identities, in status, and in possessions. And these are the areas, actually, these are the points which needs to be, discussed, reflected upon. So you see, what I'm trying to get it at is, through the list, is if we make a list of the possible areas where we try to seek permanence, or, try to seek something that is not going to change, and we ultimately realize that however we excel in our career. The Buddha never says that you don't have to have the careers. Buddha says that yes, you have to have the careers, you have to have the means of livelihood, you have to have, positive relationships, we have to have positive identities, we have to have even status, certain status in the society, we have to have in the possessions we sustain our lives. And Buddha find that too minimal of for the bhikshus. And of course we should have reputation. But you know these are the things that we might need in our lives. But if we try to seek permanence in that, trying to see that this is going to give us the everlasting happiness, that's the point that we are going to arrive at, looking at our own experiences in our lives, whether these you know we can find anything permanent in these areas, in these domains. We are going to look at the, of course, change is there. The Buddha says everybody knows the change is there, but the Buddha has a very particular take on how things evolve. As you said, you talked about evolution, how suffering arises and how suffering passes away. And it's how we can through the philosophizing, through the Buddhist inquiry, understand how craving arises. So let's look into this another dimension, particularly this one. So this cycle of temporary satisfaction, we know that when we have certain need, we acquire the object that we needed, we get pleasure, we adapt ourselves, and after we satisfy our mind, then again the restlessness begins, the needs arises again. And I think the Buddha described it very beautifully. He used the word ponobhavika in Pali, and the word ponobhavika means rising again and again. So we want something, we had it, then we are satisfied to some extent, then we again want it. And the Buddha used a very beautiful word, as I said, ponobhavika. So the craving arises all the time. They have a cyclic nature. Like we want something, we get it, then we are satisfied, then again the craving arises. So it goes on all the time. And as this particular metaphor will help us to understand that it's our bucket is leaking all the time, where we are seeking, then we are acquiring it, and we get certain pleasure out of it, then we adopt to it, then our pleasure, then again the rest. This is the cycle that we experience all the time. So the question is, why does the bucket never fill? What is it? Even when we go through this craving cycle of need, acquisition, pleasure, adaptation, restless, and need. So where do you see this cycle arising? So that's the discussion that we can have.
Yes. Hello.
Yes.
Can I put some points here, if you allow?
Yes, please. But let them be, confined to this discussion, okay?
Okay. Yes. So, why we seek permanence, where the things arise? I think it is our makeup. It is our mind, because our mind always try to survive in all the situations. Our mind is prepared ourselves to survive in our own relationship, to maintain a good relationship. It mind is try to make us good in our profession, and it also try to keep some possessions so that we can survive, our next generation will be survived. So it is the form of adaptability of our mind for us to prepare for the environment we are living in. So that's why it is the tendency to ever changing. And the questions that you raise, I think that is hidden in our makeup, our mind, and how to these inherited uh, uh, the makeup in our mind or our body is required for our survival, and how to use these adaptations, how to use these required for the evolution of ourselves. I think that is the questions that we are discussing, I think.
Okay. So you see, we have looked at a particular cycle, in terms of, there is an arising of a need, then we try to acquire it. And, when we acquire it, we get pleasure or a temporary satisfaction, we adopt to it. Then again, the restlessness begin and our need again arises. And this is how the craving cycle goes on. And the question that I wanted to discuss here is, where do we see this cycle? So we of course see this cycle in consumer goods. So there are a lot of things in the world which drag our attention. If we go to a shopping mall, there are a lot of things we wanted to have. And we want certain shirt or certain clothes, and it's psychologically proved to the experiment that the moment we buy it, half of our satisfaction goes, till that thing is not in our hand. Once we have it, the 50% of the pleasure around it goes. So we can see this cycle in consumer goods, in terms of there are objects out there which attracts our senses. We want them, and when we have them, a plateau is reached, then again we want another thing, another consumer object, and so on and so forth. So we see this cycle in consumer goods. Is it right? Is it
Uh,
just my experience, or what do you
what
other? Yes.
what just what I feel and what I learned is that uh, uh, this cycle of desire is important. It is very, very, very important. And but to important thing is that to control this desire for our own benefit, for our own family benefit, and
Rajesh ji,
for
Rajesh
our
ji,
own
Rajesh
society
ji, Rajesh ji,
benefit.
these are all
Uh,
important questions. What we are doing here is, we are asking questions about a particular thing, and we are not trying to discuss the solution at this moment. What I would like all of you to reflect on, whether this is our experience or not. Right? Anybody other than Rajesh ji has anything to say on this? Do you experience this cycle in your lives?
Yeah, hi Mangesh. So as you rightly say, everybody would have experienced this cycle, and probably in future also they will experience. Humans are greedy. As you rightly say, once you bought something, so half of the what do you call adventure, goes into toss, and then we always look for something new. So this is a continuous cycle because we have too much of greed in ourselves. So we keep looking for something new, and this continues.
Right. Any other person would like to comment on this? Like, this cycle we see in the consumer goods, in social media attention. If we have a few liking, we crave for more likings. We want more attention from the other people. Then we have this achievement culture. We wanted something now, then we again want something. There is not inherently wrong inside it, this in this cycle, unless it has that deep neurotic or psychological effect on us. And as we progress in the class today, I'm going to show you the two aspect of it. But you see, these are some of the areas where we see that the cycles operating all the time, the unending cycles. And very beautifully, if you look at the first gatha of the Dhammapad, where the Buddha talks about the suffering, how the suffering arises, and he gives an example of a bullock cart which follows the wheels of the bullock cart following the bulls. And wheels is like that particular metaphor of a wheel, the cycle going on all the time, the repetition, the kind of the rut, the sameness of something, which sometimes make our lives so boring and so dull. And so you see, we see this cyclic nature in everything that we experience in our lives, like even in romance and validation. We want some person, then we have them, and then again we crave for the different experiences. Then the experiences plateaus, then again we try to seek novelties, and so on and so forth. You see, same with power and reputation. We have some power, then we want more power, and we see these cycles all the time around us, within us and outside us. So do you think there are any other areas where we see these cycles arising? Rajesh ji, do you see any other areas where you see the cycles arising?
yes, this is cycle is everywhere. That
Great.
is why it's every sphere we have a cycle, and there is a start and there is an end.
Yeah.
And question is what we learn from start and end. That is the purpose. That is a conclusion. We should focus. We should focus. We should not focus what is the end and what is the start. it will happen in everywhere. If you are going to achieve a profession, it will happen. It is going to achieve in any money to take money that is coming, it is going, it will go. Caution is that in this journey of start and end, what we earn, what we learn, I think that is the crux of our
Good
all
point.
the
Good point.
cycle that is
Good
going
point.
around.
Point. So you see, the Buddhism, if it was just about the cycles and it was not about just going above. So Buddhism is all about, the mental cultivation. Buddhism is all about, even to a great extent, how we can make our lives materially satisfying. Otherwise, some of the Buddhist countries, we have not seen the growth that they have seen. So the point here is to understand the neurotic natures of cycle, the psychological suffering that they create within us. And of course, the Buddha teaches us how to break the cycles and advance our mind towards the higher and higher freedom. And I think that is if the Buddha was just talking about craving and the cycles, if the Buddha was talking about just two noble truths, and if he was not talking about the rest of the two noble truths, the Buddhism would have been totally pessimistic. It would be of no use to us. The question is, because we suffer, and unless we understand why we suffer, and how this cyclic cyclic sort of pattern creates a lot of suffering for us, which is not necessary for us to go through. And Buddha, of course, comes to that point where we can break these cycles, and we can seek more satisfaction, more contentment, which is not, we cannot get otherwise by in the permanent things, impermanent things. We can seek more happiness. We can experience the more blissful life, more satisfying life, more fulfilling life. That is the Buddha's promise. So you see, this in this particular lesson, we are inquiring into why we suffer, and we understand that because we crave certain objects which can never satisfy us permanently. So where should we direct our mind towards, towards or at? And I think these are the questions that are very important. And I just wanted to give you this example of a modern hungry ghost. There is no ghost like that. This is just an example to help us understand how we behave in this modern world. We are never full, always consuming. You see, so you see, we want, we want all the time. We want money all the time. Of course, we need money to survive. But if it becomes neurotic craving, we want promotions, we want followers, we want positions, we want achievements, we want experiences, we want status. And there is nothing wrong in wanting that. But more is not the same as enough. So we have to know where is that fine line where our desires become not overwhelming, but adding to our growth of humanness, to the culture of mind. This is a fine line that we have to understand. So if we have a more of something, doesn't mean that we will be satisfied. So I think this is what we, because these discussions have to be contemporary. So, I just added this slide in order to make us think that, more is not the same as enough. And where is that enough? Where is that fine line? Whether there is any end to, having, more and more of something, or, there is no end to the more and more of something. So you see, I think this is a very important point, is why is enough never enough? Why is it that even if we have something, we want something? We have one house, we want another house. We have two houses, we want a farmhouse. Why is enough never enough? That is a very important question. And I think this is the question that the Buddha comes to. And craving as such cannot be satisfied. There is no end to craving. We can go on craving and craving and craving. It can only be fade. There is, this thing. So this is the point that I would like to bring your attention to as we advance in our lesson, is about healthy desire versus craving. And this is a very important clarification that we need to bear in our mind, that definitely have to have healthy desires. The Buddha doesn't ask us to give up on our healthy desires, or the what is called the right sankalpa, or right resolutions. We don't have to give up on that. But craving part, that neurotic cycle which perpetually goes on in our mind and which causes a lot of suffering to us, and that we have to think very carefully about. So this clarification is very important. So like we have two roads. Not all desire is craving. So for example, healthy desire, like desire to learn, desire to have friendships, desire to have a more compassionate life, desire for freedom, desire for dignity, desire for something which enhances our life is healthy desire. But craving is obsession. We are obsessed with certain things. We try to possess something so firmly. Then identity dependence. We are holding on to our identity so forcefully that they ultimately cause us a lot of problems. And therefore the Buddha says that we have to distinguish between healthy desires and craving. So craving is of course a neurotic cycle, as I was telling you, that once we get into that cycle, we become so much taken by that cycle that we lose take on reality. We don't see the things as they are, because we are caught up in that pattern, we are caught up in that cycle, we are caught up in that a particular pattern of mind, so much so that we begin to lose the grip over the reality. So I think these are some of the issues that we have to look into, that not all desire is craving. And the difference between the two, healthy desire and craving, lies in clinging and self-completion. So holding on to something, trying to think that these things are going to complete me. The question is not do I want, the question is how am I wanting something. Hello? Hello?
Yes, yes. Hello.
Hello, somebody wanted to do something?
Yes, you can continue. We are listening you.
Okay, so you understood this, that not all desires is craving. It's not that there are certain healthy desires, there are certain healthy things that we have to cultivate in order to escape or break this cycle of suffering. And of course that is about learning. We have to learn, we have to study. This is what the Buddha has emphasized time and again. And of course fulfilling relationship like friendships, they're very important. These things, compassion, the emotion that we cultivate, so that our lives will be of benefit to others, and of course the human freedom. These are the healthy desires. So question is not do I want, question is how am I wanting. Whether our wanting is neurotic, whether we have completely gone astray with that kind of desire, whether we have lost the complete hold over the reality, whether we have become blind to the reality itself, whether we are able to see something clearly, or whether we are seeing everything from that lens of our desires. I think these are very, very interesting sort of the teachings and the philosophical reflections that the Buddha has asked us to look into. So just to go further on this.
I
Yes.
want to add one point here. You can put your point also. The desire is, as you highlighted, is very important. There should not be craving. There should be a controlled desire that fit us to adjust in the environment we have. And the desire never end. It is fact. It is fact. And you said that from house to house to the farmhouse, these things keep going on and moving on. And because of these uncontrolled desires, we are worried कि मेरी लाइफ में क्या होगा, मैं और अरेंज इकट्ठा कर लूँ कि मेरे आने वाले पीढ़ी को वो बेनिफिट करे. तो इसी को लेके, इसी फाउंडेशन को लेके उसने संघ का निर्माण किया था. ही क्रिएटेड ए संघ, एक संघ परिवार, दैट इज हाउ टू जनरेट ए फ्यूचर सोसाइटी दैट इज on the basis of these desires. Because if I want something more money, more possession, so use this money possession for creating a society that nurture our future generation, so that even if we possess or even if we have lot of money at this life, we are not giving any guarantee that this money will continue in our next generation. But if our knowledge, if our structure, if our foundation is good enough, then our next generation will nurture his own buddhi, own intellect, so that he can earn more.
Very good
So
point.
he shift the desires towards developing a sangha, and sangha to develop a better society, and that society evolved into. That's why the University of Takshila and Nalanda was created,
Good point.
thinking that thinking that yes, even if my desire end at my life, what happened to my desire, my possessions, to the next generation? That's why they need the continuity of knowledge. That knowledge should be evolved. That short knowledge should be collected by every people who have a desire, so that the collectively all of our future generation will benefit
Very
with
good
that
point.
knowledge. That
Good point.
that's
Good
how
point.
the foundation with the next universities and the knowledge
Good, good,
centers
good.
was.
Good point. Good point. I think that is what we are talking about, the healthy desires here. And we are not talking about the neurotic desires or craving. Craving is, of course, very neurotic. And we see in this world today that, there are a lot of mental illnesses, there are a lot of neuroses that we all face or we all experience. And the Buddha is a very wise, teacher who asks us what is to be desired and what is not to be desired. And I have never seen any suttas where Buddha says that don't earn money. He says, earn money positive, with a positive hard work. The Buddha never, ennobles poverty, as Baba Ambedkar has told us. So it's not about, not earning or, giving up on life. Buddhism is not that. Buddhism is saying that, we should know where we should investigate, where we should, invest our energies into, our minds into, so that we live more fulfilled life and we help others to live more fulfilled life. I think that's the crux of it, isn't it? And
Yes,
and
yes,
and we when you understand this particular nature of a mind, that neurotic nature of a mind, that of course that nature of mind where everything breaks down, I think that's a very interesting sort of thing that we have to understand. And I think these two roads particularly, that when the Buddha teaches us that not all desires is craving, and we have to have healthy desires, like, like desire to learn, desire to, educate, desire to acquire a lot of skills, desire for, having more knowledge. I think this is not wrong. This is a very good positive desire. Desire to have good relationship with people, have a good society, as you said, Rajesh bhai, or to have a sangha. So I think these are very healthy desire. It's not craving. To live a compassionate life, to have a freedom, human freedom, freedom of mind. I think these are very, very interesting. I think this slide, as if, captures what we have been, thinking so far, that there are certain domains in our lives where, however hard we try to achieve that, even after we achieve that, we do not, have that satisfaction. We want, there is a very beautiful simile in Buddhist literature is about, we are thirsty and we try to satisfy our desire by drinking salt water. And the more we drink the salt water, the more we are thirsty, isn't it? So that's the nature of craving. And that's the nature of any desire which is not ultimately fulfilling, which is not based on, right view. That is the nature of all desire, which is not based on right view, to ultimately lead us to the, leads to suffering. So we are talking about a more nuanced, uh, sort of the craving here. So let's go on further and we will be able to look into a lot of things like that. So example between healthy desire and craving. Healthy desire, I want to learn so I can understand. I think there is nothing wrong in this kind of, desire. But craving, if you look at this, I must be seen as an intelligent person. I think this is a craving. And, we just want to show off, our knowledge, instead of, we learn for the sake of understanding certain things. I think this is very interesting clarification between a healthy desire and craving. So, it can be very healthy to say that I love this person, but craving, I cannot exist without possessing this person. I think this is craving. I think we as a human being, we like people, it's but natural that we like certain people according to our whatever dispositions, but to say that I cannot exist without possessing this person, and we become neurotic about that particular, desire that, if we don't have them, our lives are, no more, worth living. So you see, I think these two examples are very important for us to understand the difference between healthy desire and craving. Of course, there can be any, do you have any other examples of such things? Anybody has
Uh,
any other examples of this?
yes, because it is a foundation. That's why it is called as a middle path. A middle path means we have a certain desire for our life, and we have to be very trustworthy to ourselves that this is required for me, and out of that, it is causing damage to me. It is in every, even if we take a food, if food is taken in an appropriate amount, it is a good for health. Even if take is an excess amount, it will cause obesity. And if we taking less, it cause malnutrition. Even if we are taking too much money, that will create a desire, a craving to generate more and more. To have money is very important, but to use that money for the next generation, that is the vision for being in a society. That is very important ki how to convert from healthy uh, to craving, and how to control craving towards healthy.
Good,
So
good, good, good,
because
good, good, good.
because we all have
No, do
certain.
you have anything to say, in your life to define about, some healthy desire or craving? Like here we have been talking about healthy desire being, our wanting to learn so that we can understand the society around us, the economics around us, whatever, the way, a scholar would like to. But if somebody is trying to, craving for, has seen as an intelligent person. So ultimately, I think the point that we are trying to make it here as that, it
I'm
is not.
just giving a
Yes.
live example of myself in my life, because I'm being a doctor, and one times I finished my degrees, I want ki I have should have more money.
Hmm.
So I earn money, I achieve it, but then the question raised, what I will do this money? What is for me? I needed just a uh, three chapati, I think, and a certain food,
Hmm.
and that is fulfilled with my certain little amount of salary. And what is this excess amount of things is there? Then I start searching for myself. The most important part is what I want. I think if we realize this question, what I want from this life, the purpose of our all things will automatically set up into the right directions.
Okay, good,
So,
good, good, good.
so when we realize ourselves ki what I want from this life, then things become more clear, things become more controlled, and we are become a balanced life. I think
Good,
that is
good, good.
that is good.
Good, Dr. Sir. Anybody has anything to say on this? Or is it just doctor and I am talking in this class? So anybody has anything to reflect on this?
I think this is our. I think it's a very foundational questions, and basics जो बुद्धिज्म की है, और आई थिंक बेसिक्स जो जैनिज्म की है, वो काफी हद तक ओवरलैप भी करती हैं, और कुछ काफी हद तक डेविएट भी करती हैं
हाँ
एक
राजेश
दूसरे
जी
से।
ठीक है।
और ये क्वेश्चंस अपने अंदर से क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं कि व्हाट आई वांट, these start arising when we start craving or start asking question from us inside.
Okay.
Uh, Now, that is very must for to understand the Buddhism. What I feel is that.
Anybody has anything to say on this? Okay, we will advance further and so you see these are if you look at this particular way at healthy desire, that there is nothing wrong in saying that I would like this, but craving is I cannot be complete without this. In a nutshell, that is what we can understand the nature of craving vis-a-vis the other sort of the needs that we have. So I think this summarizes in a sense what we can the way we can understand the desire. or craving, healthy desire and craving. And this is, we are coming to the last. So you see, as the Buddha says that, because there is some pleasure attached to what we want. And the Buddha used a very beautiful word for that, Nandi Raga Sahagata, that we don't crave something because, just like that. There is certain kind of a pleasure that is there. And because of that pleasure, the pleasure is the bait. And, when we crave after that little pleasure, which comes up with satisfying, our senses for some time, like, the example of good food, we crave for it. And, we think that we will get pleasure after having it. Of course, we get pleasure after having it, but, the again, we crave for those things. So you see, this is very interesting that whatever we desire has in its root the desire to derive pleasure. And we can look at our own cravings like that we think that if we have this thing, or if we have that particular thing, we will be satisfied. So you see, the pleasure is there. And I think we cannot deny that, there is no pleasure in sensuality. There is a pleasure in sensuality, and the Buddha says that out of these two pleasures, the pleasure in sensuality and the pleasure in renunciation, Buddha says that the pleasure in renunciation is far higher and subtle than the pleasure that we derive in indulgence in the sensuality. And whenever we indulge into sensuality, of course there is a pleasure, but, the nature of that pleasure is that it invites further, engagement to that, a cycle, kind of a cycle that we have been talking about in this class, since the beginning, that, we want this thing, we get satisfied, we want again. And, it goes on, goes on, goes on, till it becomes very neurotic. And of course, the Buddha has made a very important, I would say, a psychological discovery when he says that, why do we have this constant neurotic desire to have something? Because there is some pleasure in that. And attachment is the hook. This is very interesting. I think this is a very important sort of visual that we can bear in our mind, that we think that we will get desire, we will get pleasure after having this. But it's like a fish which get caught into the snare. And, it's ultimately leads to its, more and more suffering. So what is this bait and what is the hook? So pleasure is the bait and attachment is the hook. And common hooks that we see in our day-to-day lives, and I think we all have seen these hooks, that if there is a praise, every example we get attached to that, we want more praise. And if somebody says something to us which we don't like, we feel very sad. Success, we all crave for success, but if we fail somewhere, we suffer. We have this very this romance is another example. If we have, if we get to have the person that we love, then, it's pleasure, attachment. And, if something goes wrong in the relationship, suffering, reputation, we all try to have reputation. If we name, is spoiled, we have this tremendous amount of suffering. Certainty, if we think that certain things are certain, some certain things are stable, but then we realize that the stability is not the nature of the world. And if, things become uncertain, we know what happens. And this is true about status. So you see, these are the common hooks that we see. And anybody has to say, has anything to add to this? So you see, these are just some common hooks that we, we go back to these examples like this, and we can find those hooks always there, and we know what happens.
One important things I want to just want to discuss with you all who are in the panel discussions, because pleasure, if we see pleasure, can be in a different forms. So pleasure to when we get money is a pleasure. When we have a relationship with a woman, we have a pleasure. And when we have a certain good clothes, we have a pleasure. So pleasure is a part of the uh, journey of our life, and somehow this pleasure is materialistic, is some have attached with other matter. When we develop this pleasure into a virtual things, I think that is the most important part. When we convert these pleasures or these attachments towards some virtual things like knowledge, virtual things like future. Future is a virtual, it is not real. And future brings means future generation, future society. So when we attach these things for our virtual things, not materialistic things, then the purpose of desire and pleasure put in the right directions. So if we focus on the same things, if we have a attachment with a particular persons, and in a relation rather than a persons, we more focus on a relationship. Relationship is a virtual.
Rajesh
It is
ji,
not.
yes, please be precise because we have some more slides to go.
Yes.
So you see, these are the common hooks and that we all understand and we have to look into them. So you see, these are the fortress of self, and we have seen in the second self as to however hard we try to find a self, a metaphysical substance called self, we cannot find it, and we also know that attachment creates fear because wherever we attached we have this fear of loss. So this is just an image that I created in order to show you that the more we cling, the more we must defend. So this is the fortress of self, and the self is so strong, and we have been living with this idea of self for since we are born. The Buddha says that the identity of me arise doesn't arise in an infant, and as we interact with the world, as we our language gets formed, as our so-called separateness get formed from others, we have this sense of psychological sense of a self, and the more we cling to the idea of self, the more we must defend it. So, for example, the particularly, in the caste conquest, we see the identity of caste. People hold on to it just like as if it is real. You know, uh, we hold on to the idea that my ideology is right. I am right. This is mine. And the more we cling to this idea of self, the more we must defend it. The more we defend it, the more, sort of struggles that we all have to undergo. So why do we why do we become defensive? What exactly is being protected? This is a very interesting question. And as we know that attachment creates fear, that fear of loss. That's why we want to defend it, and the because of this and these are very important processes that have been looked into psychologically nowadays in the academic world. But if you look at particularly the way Buddha looks at the various sort of dimensions of our mind in terms of attachment, and why do we fear the loss, and because we fear the loss, how defensive we become, and the more we become defensive, then how it leads to suffering. So I think these are some of the very important psychological processes that the Buddha defined. As we touch upon the social dimension in all the three sessions. So in this lesson, I'm going to talk about a little bit, not more, about social dimension, craving, identity, and hierarchy. So why do people defend superiority?
Mangesh, just add to your previous slide. I have just one point to add regarding the attachment create fear. Regarding fear, it is also important. Attachment is required, but to control knowledge, lack of knowledge also create fear. So when we do not have a knowledge about
Yes, we have
anything,
we have we have discussed
infinity.
that. No, we have discussed that
Uh,
previously. If you
so
have
that's
anything
why
new to add, new add, please go on, Rajesh ji. Okay,
if we
because we
have a
have looked at that.
knowledge, if we have a knowledge, we control our attachment.
Okay.
So it is very important to generate knowledge. That is more focused on by Buddhism, Buddha, and attachment is more focused by the Jainism.
Okay.
So it is a big difference between here Jainism and Buddhism.
Okay.
Buddhism is more focused on the knowledge, to acquire knowledge so that you control your attachment, so that you control your fear.
Okay.
And Janice say ki to because of this attachment you have a suffering, so detach it, sacrifice it. That's why they are sacrificing everything. They are sacrificing the clothes, they are sacrificing the food, they are sacrificing everything. This is the extreme way of getting the
Actually,
thing. I think that is the more. I just
okay.
want to add here. That is not. You can continue further.
So you see, the question is, why do people defend superiority in the particular context? And this is, I think, not a slogan. We have to look at it in terms of, I think, defend of superiority, has a lot to do with the feeling of inferiority. We can discuss that. And you see, this why people feel insecure, because there is a need for certainty, identity fixation, and the more fixed is the identity. And Anātma, one of the way to look at Anātma is not to have any fixed identity. And because our self is fluid, our self is dynamic, we cannot fix ourselves. The because the mind and body, they are the process, they are not the substance. As the Buddha said, they are the set of relationships. And because of that, we cannot fix any identity. But the notional sort of identity that we fixed and we attach to and we defend it, it leads to an hierarchical society. And that's where the genius of the Buddha lies, where he has completely gone beyond and taught people to go beyond the identities that confine the vastness of the experience that cannot be confined within any identity, within any label as such, because the human experience as such is far wider than any identity can confine it. And that's what the Buddha discovered, that the nature of our existence is so vast that it cannot be confined to the linguistic or the social notions or notations. So I think this is a very important point that we can take it from here, that when we look at the particular identity, it cannot be held as reality. It's just the idea in our mind. And that's what that's what needs to be understood in terms of you know uh, the self. And as we have seen in the lecture, lesson 1, that to have this wrong idea about self is the real cause of suffering. And the more we have clarity on who we really are and what is the nature of the world about it, the more we have this clarity, the more we operate on that basis in the world. And that's how we saw the relationship between the metaphysics and the ethics. And of course, in the second, we saw that there cannot be, there is nothing called independent self. And in this, we are seeing how we can be free from this fixations of social identities, which becomes a part of the game of self. So we ultimately come to the self freedom in this particular uh, lesson number 3 is freedom is not getting everything. Freedom is not needing everything, isn't it? So I think this is a very interesting idea, that we all want to be free. We all want to have a free minds. We all want to have the boundless minds. And we think that, we can get the freedom by getting everything in the world. Or, is if we need everything in the world, we can have the freedom. But Buddha says that this is not so. We cannot have freedom if we indulge ourselves into the things which are which ultimately are not satisfactory. We can have freedom if we cultivate our minds in certain ways. And we are going to look at that in the coming session as to how we can cultivate the freedom, how our minds can be free, how we can have the blissful life, how we can have the most fulfilling and satisfying life, how we can have the lives that can have the impact on the others. So this is the master diagram to summarize impermanence, insecurity, craving, attachment, fear, and suffering. This is what we can bear in our mind. And just to retry you, and I think Rajesh Bhai can help us here to summarize. So before we end our class today and have a retrieval of what we have been studying in this class, I would like to say that in the upcoming class, we are going to look at if craving depends on conditions, where do those conditions come from? So, the craving doesn't arise automatically of its own. It's based on certain conditions. And I think the Buddha is very sort of a great teacher who doesn't make statements. His teaching is grounded in the reality of our day-to-day life. And that's why this class, or this particular course is aimed at that, as to how we can understand Buddhism in our day-to-day life, not as a theory, not as as told in the books, but based on our day-to-day the realities of our life. So, of course, we crave for things, of course, but that is not arising from vacuum. They arise from the conditions. So if the craving depends on the conditions, where do those conditions come from? And I think that is going to be the fourth lesson that we are going to look at and study in the fourth session, that is next Sunday. So before we do that, before we end the class today, let's recapitulate. And I think here Rajesh Bhai can help us to recapitulate. Rajesh Bhai.
Yes, I think what
Just confine yourself to these things, and I think
yes,
because we
yes,
don't have a lot of time, and I think
yes,
other people can add.
attachments.
Yes.
Yes, what I feel is that attachment is a important part of our sufferings and it important part of our life also.
Good.
And it is important to control our attachments, so that if we control our attachments, we can control our sufferings. And important thing is that desire. Second point is desire. So how significant desires should we have? Desires are important part of our life. Desire will be there and desire should be there, but to control these desires is also important for our present situations जो हमारे पास अभी हैं. जो आपके जिस सिचुएशन में आप हैं उसकी जो डिजायर्स हैं वो आपको पता होनी चाहिए. एंड द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट पार्ट इज हाउ टू कंट्रोल द डिजायर्स is with the knowledge of that particular. If I have a desire to become a rich, then you should know what is the purpose of your money, how to use that money for yourself, your future generation, and for the society. And the next important thing is possession that you attachments or possessiveness. This is also a part of manifestation of all the attachments, possession attachments. These are
Okay,
all
Rajesh
centered
bhai,
around
I would like
that
to hear
I
from others also. I would like to hear
yes.
from others also. Okay, so anybody has anything to say on this at the end of the class?
Yes.
Yes, Rajesh ji.
To summarize, and you discussed in brief, the topic is attachment today. The root cause of attachment. So basic wanting, that is needful. Basic essential wanting and one. Then that is necessary want, unnecessary want. Essential needful, not necessary, unnecessary needful. That leads to craving. Wanting leads to craving. That is taṇhā. Then again and again, craving leads to attachment, clinging. So we have to apply, as a doctor discussed, in his experience and teachings. That's why each and every person. See, in your lecture also, see, why Baba Sahib fought for rights, that means education in the next level, how to develop and retain the education, then employment through affirmative actions, then again rights, voting rights. So we suffered and we were deprived of deprivation of the age-old deprivations of illiteracy, and we did not have any rights. Therefore, Baba Sahib fought for rights. Rights means inclusive of education. Education means what? Should to acquire the knowledge. Then only we can, when getting knowledge, when imparting education, getting knowledge, then we can follow and we come to know that discipline, then self-respect. These are all the main pillars, in the teachings. So Baba Sahib not fought for or yearned for our, what is this, materialist things, The country is ours. We were the aborigines of this land. But whether we wanted to own in this country in our own name, no. how we are suffered, what were deprived. Basic is, again, we have to go back to 2,500 years or 500 years back. So we can take it from the teachings of the Buddha. Buddha, what is the contribution, not only us and the entire human being? Again, suffering. Why this type of suffering and deprivations? So again, ultimately go to power. Why we have to go to power? We lost everything. Again, we have to go to the couplets of the Mahatma Jyotiba Phule. We lost knowledge. Everything we knowledge, no. Ultimately, since we lost power, everything we lost. So therefore, Baba Sahib started from the human being or the suppressed class or every class need. It is education. Education means, so we don't have knowledge. How to gain the knowledge? Through education. So system of the education, accumulation of knowledge, then only we can have rational thought. So these are all ultimate where it would lead. Then self-satisfaction and finding the individual's problem. See, both operational of the individual mind and the social mind with the power.
Good.
So without power.
Good, Rajesh.
Thank
Good.
you.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Okay. Any other person before we end the class today? Anybody has anything to say?
Hi, brother. Craving.
Yes, Sadish.
Yeah, it was a wonderful session, and thanks for making this course for everyone. It was very interesting. So, from my point, it's very simple. The thing is, from the class, what I said got is everything is changing, right?
Right.
But the changing is not the suffering. Suffering arises due to there is a condition is there. The condition makes us ignorance of the confusion.
Right.
The confusion brings us a misperception on attraction and aversion. So we grasp what we desire, and this is what we dislike. This reaction keeps us in dissatisfaction. So this kind of dissatisfaction makes us individual dukha into samudaya dukha. So this is the way society is running in samsara, right? So we can make more discussion on this session on what is the condition. Hope you teach us more. Thank you so much.
Good. No, we are into the third lesson only, as I have planned about 10, and we have 7 more to go. And hopefully, I think that will add depth to and perspective to the previous classes as well. So we will be coming back to these classes as we advance as well, so that we will be able to understand the the teachings of the Buddha in our lives itself, just not theoretically. Okay. So, anybody has to say anything, because I think this session has gone for a long. We have Suraj here. Suraj, you want to say something?
Actually, I joined extremely late because I slept late and I'm right now in Germany. So I woke up at 7:30. I would like to see, I don't know, you can finish the session, and I would just like to, because I'd like to see how you started, because I was reading the definition. How do you translate taṇhā?
No, we have this Pali technical definition. It goes like this: Yayang tanna puno bhavika nandi raga sahagata tatra tatra bindini seyatidam kama tanna bhavatanna vivotanna. So let's break it down. Yayang tannaya. So tanna is like this. Tanna is something that arises here and there. With pleasure. Nandi raga sahagata. It always arises with pleasure. And it arises, everywhere. Tatra tatra bhindini. It delights everywhere. So what is that? And the Buddha defines it. And the nature of the tanna is punarbhavika. Means it arises all the time. Punarbhava. This Indian word punarbhava. So the tanna is arising all the time. Nandi raga sahagata means it always arises with craving as a goal, with pleasure as a goal. Nandi raga sahagata means with tatra tatra bhindini means it's always delights here and there. So we know this is about our mind. Actually, it tries to find, pleasure everywhere. And, Tatra Tantra Bhindini also has this notion, connotation of, randomness. And it arises all the time. And the Buddha defines, as I said, three types of taṇhā. One is bhava taṇhā, to be. So desire to be. And vibhava taṇhā, desire not to be. So we always want to be or not to be. So we want to be that or not to be that. So these are the two poles where our minds moves all the time, to be or not to be, to put it very simply. And the third taṇhā the Buddha defined is kama taṇhā. Kama taṇhā is like desire to have sense, pleasures derived from the senses. So, if we see something nice through eyes, we, desire it. If we hear something through our ears, we desire it. If we feel something nice by the way of touch, we desire it. And likewise, if we do not like something which we see through our eyes, we don't want it. If we hear something that we don't like, we push it away. So, to summarize, our mind is always moving between two poles, likes and dislikes. And this translates into raga and dosa, if we use the Buddhist language. So if we like something, our mind gives rise to what is called raga. If we don't like something, it gives rise to dosa. So two poles in which our mind is always moving. And of course, there is a third pole, because we don't see and the way it is, ignorance, which we are going to look into that in the coming lectures. So, this, what is taṇhā? So taṇhā, if we, taṇhā is like, in Marathi, you can say tahan or trishna. So when you have this, when we are, have this taṇhā or desire, I think Pali is the best word, taṇhā. So if we do not get water, we crave for it so much. So imagine you are thirsty. So that's like, of course, that's almost a situation where, it's like it becomes so existential that we want it. We cannot but want it. So I think the word desire or craving doesn't connote, exactly what the Buddha wanted to communicate through the word taṇhā. Right? Like we can say pyas. So, when you are deeply thirsty, there is no water, you become like restless. So I think it's very interesting psychological word that we have to understand. Desire, craving, these are just the English words to understand what Buddha exactly mean. But we all know that if we want something very badly, how do we feel? Isn't it? I think we all can, look into our experiences, that how we crave for something, how we desire for something so badly that if we don't have it, then everything in the world will collapse. So you see, there is a lot of clarity, because we see these terms in terms of the experiences, and when we look at everything from the point of view of paticca samutpad, that how one things lead to another, then things become very clear. Otherwise, we keep on discussing the nouns. But the Buddha asked us to discuss the, in terms of the processes, as to how one things leads to another. That's the discussion that we're going to have in the fourth lecture. So where we will have more clarification about what is taṇhā. Okay. So I think we have gone on for a long, and I think we can end here today, and see you in the next class. Okay, next week.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.